Yeah, man, it's tough out there. Oh, you had kids? Oh, really sorry to hear that. Yeah, that photosynthesis stuff, man, that ain't no walk in the park, you know? Oh, great, here comes Timmy the tiger.
You talking to plants again, bro?
I'm a druid, Tim. You know this.
You're one weird dude.
I'm not weird, it's a spell that I get.
Hey, I'm trying to sleep. Keep it down, tree hugger.
You're the one hugging trees all day. Oh, sometimes I wish I was a paladin. Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about one specific class that will be playable in Baldur's Gate 3. If you enjoy calling on the elemental forces of nature, or if emulating the creatures of the animal world sounds like something you wouldn't want to miss, then the Druid might be for you. Crocodile Hunter, Jeff Corwin, and Zabumafu fans, come out of hiding, for your class has been chosen. We're going to talk about the class features and the spells you gain, what races go well with the Druid, shape changing into various beasts, and of course the confirmed subclasses, so you're going to want to stick around for the entire video. If you guys end up enjoying this video, please subscribe, for there will be much more Baldur's Gate 3 content on the way, and as always, links to my social media will be below so you can stay updated on future video releases. Okay, and one more thing, this upcoming Friday, May 22nd, I will be going live on this channel with the CEO of 9 Dot Studio, the creator of the amazing RPG Outward. We'll probably be going live around 2 p.m. or so, that's Eastern time, so if you want to come hang out and ask some questions or just have a good time, I hope to see some of you guys there. Druids revere nature above all, gaining their spells and other magical powers either from the forces of nature themselves or a nature deity. They are a unique and extremely adaptable class, perhaps the most versatile class that will be in Baldur's Gate 3. They have a ton of spells to choose from, but also some really interesting useful features such as Wild Shape, which allows you to shape change into various beasts. Druids are the guardians and protectors of the natural world, and they serve as extensions of nature's indomitable will, rather than acting as tyrants and masters over the land. You don't have to be a vegetarian to be a druid though, for many druids appreciate the fierceness of the natural world, and survival of the fittest might be their way of life. Druids can tank, heal, deal damage, buff party members, and control movement, basically everything, and they are definitely widely recognized as a really solid class. So what races go well with the druid? Well, let's first talk about what ability scores are important, and then we can make our racial decision. The druid's spellcasting ability is Wisdom. Wisdom will also determine your druid's spell save DC and spell attack modifier, and it also ties into the druid's skills that you'll choose as well. So you should definitely allocate the most points to Wisdom. Constitution and Dexterity are usually the two other ability scores that most druids focus on. Constitution can really help with your druid's concentration for some spells, and of course a higher Constitution modifier is always nice to have added to your HP. Dexterity helps with your armor class as well as some other benefits, so that's nice to have as well. Keep in mind that when you wild shape into an animal form, you take on that specific animal's ability scores. Well, most of them. I know most people probably want to hear about this shape-shifting stuff and what animals that you can turn into, etc. Hang in there, we will get to that part of the video as fast as I can. So now that we know what ability scores are typically best for the druid, let's tip the racial choices in our druid's favor. Elves are a solid choice, for you gain +2 to dexterity for being an elf, and the wood elf specifically also gives you a +1 to wisdom. Wood elves in a role-playing sense also go great, for it just makes sense. Humans are always a decent choice for most classes, for you gain +1 to all of your ability scores. And believe it or not, dwarves can be an excellent choice for your druid, the hill dwarf in particular. You wouldn't think of dwarves as lovers of nature, but really, they love the earth. Maybe not in the same way as a wood elf, but dwarves live for the mountains and the stone. Playing as a dwarf will give you +2 to Constitution, with a sub-race choice of hill dwarf giving you also a +1 to wisdom. But really guys, there's ways to make most of the races work well, and we don't know all of the races that will be available, so don't feel like you have to play one of the 3 that I just mentioned. Now let's go over hit points and proficiencies, and then we'll get into the exciting stuff. As a druid, you'll have a hit dice of 1d8. So you'll start off with the max of 8 hit points, and from level 2 and on, you'll either roll an 8-sided die each level to determine how much HP you'll gain, or you'll use the druid's fixed rate HP increase of 5 per level. A 1d8 hit dice is a little on the lower side considering a wizard has the lowest of 1d6 and the barbarian has a max of 1d12, but no need to worry. Also, don't forget that your constitution modifier gets added to your base HP from the hit dice. You will have armor proficiency in light armor, medium armor, and shields, but druids will not wear armor or use shields made of metal. They like wood. Their weapon proficiencies are clubs, daggers, darts, javelins, maces, quarterstaffs, scimitars, sickles, slings, and spears. Pretty cool weapons, but some of them are a little strange as well. You'll likely not be using your weapon too much though, for you'll be spellcasting or you'll be in your animal form, but common choices for the druid are quarterstaffs and scimitars. Don't forget racial choices give you more weapon proficiencies as well. For tools, a druid is proficient in the herbalism kit, which if in the game will let your character add your proficiency bonus to ability checks you make to identify or apply herbs. For saving throws, a druid will be proficient in intelligence and wisdom. The intelligence saving throw proficiency may come in handy in this game, for I believe that the mind flayers have abilities that call for intelligence saving throws. Wisdom saving throws can help resist charms and frighten effects. And lastly, for skills, you'll choose 2 from Arcana, Animal Handling, Insight, Medicine, Nature, Perception, Religion, and Survival. Look those up if you want to know what they mean, because I can't make you guys wait any longer. Let's get right into talking about the cool stuff that you gain as you level up, such as the Druid spells, Wild Shape, and the Druid subclasses. This right here is the Druid class chart. Don't forget that max level, at least initially in Baldur's Gate 3, will be 10, so we'll only be looking at half of the chart. At level 1, you can see that a Druid gains the spellcasting feature. And to the right, the chart tells us that you will know 2 cantrips, which are spells that can be cast at will that do not use up spell slots, and you'll also have 2 level 1 spell slots available at level 1. As you level up, you can see that the cantrip's known number increases at level 4 and 10, and the level and amount of spell slots increase as you level up as well. When you get to level 10, you'll know 4 cantrips and have 4 level 1 spell slots, 3 level 2, 3 level 3, 3 level 4, and 2 level 5 spell slots available. So let's look at the Druid spell list. First is the cantrips, which includes Druidcraft, Guidance, Mending, Poison Spray, Produce Flame, Resistance, Shillelagh, and Thorn Whip. When you choose your cantrips, this is a permanent choice. Like I said earlier, as you will level up, you'll eventually have 4 cantrips at level 10, but keep in mind that you don't get to switch cantrip spells in and out like you do with your other spells. Your choices will stay with you for the entire game. The cantrip Poison Spray, for example, you will project a puff of noxious gas from your palm, and if your opponent does not succeed on a Constitution saving throw, they'll take 1d12 poison damage. The Shillelagh cantrip is kinda cool for if you have a wood club or a quarterstaff. For the duration of the cantrip's use, you will use your wisdom modifier for the attack and damage rolls instead of strength, which those weapons usually go off. Also, your weapon die will increase to 1d8. Now that we've covered cantrips, let's talk about the big boy spells. Since max level is 10 for your druid, you'll only gain access to level 5 spells and under. For if you look at the chart here, once you get to class level 9 and 10, you gain access to the level 5 spell slots for the first time. Druids use prepared spells, so this means that each time you go to your camp in Baldur's Gate 3 and rest, when you wake up you'll choose your spells for that day, which means you have prepared them. If you rest at a camp again, you can switch out those current spells, or keep the same ones depending on what you think will entail that specific day's adventures. The total amount of spells you can prepare each day goes by your character's level plus your wisdom modifier, another reason why having a high wisdom ability score is important. There's really a lot of spells to choose from, so go ahead and pause the video here in a minute if you would like to actually read them all. I'll just say a few of the cooler sounding ones to get you excited. Level 1 spells include Thunderwave, Healing Ward, Fog Cloud, and Entangle. Level 2 has spells such as Animal Messenger, Gust of Wind, Moonbeam, and Flaming Sphere. Level 3 has Call Lightning, Conjure Animals, Sleet Storm, and I guess I can't leave out Speak with Plants. Level 4, Polymorph, Dominate Beast, Wall of Fire, Giant Insect, and Level 5 has spells such as Conjure Elemental, Contagion, and Insect Plague. I would assume that not every spell will be in the game, but I think a good amount of them will be, for you would really anger some D&D Druid players if you left out some of their favorite choices. Here's some examples of what those spells actually do. Entangle is a spell that will sprout vines from the ground and ensnare enemies. Thunder Wave produces a wave of thunderous force that sweeps out from you, dealing damage and pushing enemies back 10 feet, as well as unsecured objects. It's also very loud, so this could be a cool one to use in a video game. Conjure Animals will summon fey spirits that take the form of beasts that can assume the shape of a variety of beasts. Giant Insect will let you transform various insects into giant forms that can fight for you. Pretty creepy. Polymorph will let you transform other creatures, friendlies or enemies, into new forms. That's pretty cool and it can be really useful. Insect Plague will summon a sphere of biting locusts in a 20-foot radius that will bite your enemies. So many cool sounding spells for the Druid. If you're trying to be more of a healer, you'll choose more healing based type spells, or a controller of the battlefield, you can pick spells that summon plants that hold enemies in place. There's also a bunch of spells that act like dots, which is damage over time, and those spells typically require you to hold your concentration. I wish I could go over them all, but I bet most of you are already mad at me for we haven't talked about Wild Shape yet, but here we go. Druid level 2 is where we learn Wild Shape, as well as choose a Druid subclass. So Wild Shape is a Druid class feature that will let you use your action to magically assume the shape of a beast that you have seen before. You will be able to use this action twice, and then it requires a short or long rest to regain its uses. A short rest in Baldur's Gate 3 is the time in between two separate combat encounters, and a long rest is resting at your camp. So basically you can use it twice in one combat encounter if you so choose. You can also stay in your Wild Shape form for a time equal to half your Druid's level, rounded down. Now that's for D&D, so I'm not sure what the time will be for Baldur's Gate 3, but I'm sure it will be long enough to run around and have fun. So when you Wild Shape into a beast form, you will take on that specific beast statistics. These beast statistics can be found in the Monster Manual D&D book, which Larian Studios did say was one of the books they are referencing to make the Baldur's Gate 3 mechanics. There are some exceptions to this rule though. You will retain your character's intelligence, wisdom, and charisma ability scores while in beast form, so you won't become stupid or anything like that. You can still roleplay your character in various situations. You will also keep your character's saving throw proficiencies and skill proficiencies while in Wild Shape. You won't be able to cast your Druid spells, but you might be able to use certain feats that you have acquired. One thing you can do though is cast spells that require concentration before you Wild Shape. Then go ahead and use Wild Shape and you can still actually hold the concentration of said spells while in beast form. This can be really good for tanking because you can cast a defensive spell and then Wild Shape into a tankier type animal. You're going to be really hard to take down. So what beasts can you actually turn into? A lot, but first let me give you the definition of a beast. A beast is any non-humanoid creature that is a natural part of the fantasy ecology. This can be a variety of ordinary animals, dinosaurs, and giant versions of animals. It will definitely be interesting to see how far Larian Studios takes this, but in D&D you can Wild Shape into any beast that you have actually seen if you meet the challenge rating requirements. If we look at the beast shapes chart here, you can see that at level 2, when you gain Wild Shape, you can turn into a beast that has a quarter challenge rating or lower. Now there is a catch. If you choose the Circle of the Moon subclass, your max challenge rating of beasts that you can turn into goes up substantially at level 2. We'll get into the subclasses after we finish talking about Wild Shape. So let's actually look at a beast. It only makes sense to look at the wolf. For what other beast would I turn into? The wolf shows a challenge rating of 1/4 or a quarter, so this means that we can assume the shape right away at level 2, regardless of what subclass we choose. We will take on the wolf's armor class, hit points, speed, strength, dexterity, and constitution ability scores, and will gain the wolf's special traits of keen hearing and smell and pack tactics, and also gain the wolf's action of bite. Now if we look at the black bear, the challenge rating is half, so going back to our beast shape chart, you can see that we can't Wild Shape into a black bear until we reach class level 4, unless you're a Circle of the Moon Druid subclass. If we look at the brown bear, it has a challenge rating of 1, so you cannot Wild Shape into the brown bear until class level 8. But once again, if you're playing as a Moon Druid, you can actually Wild Shape into these challenge rating 1 beasts right away at level 2. Challenge rating 1 and above beasts tend to be much more reliable for combat. The chart here also has a limitations column, which tells us that at level 2 we cannot Wild Shape into a beast that has flying or swimming speeds. At level 4 you can now change into beasts with swimming speeds but still not flying speeds, and at level 8 there are no limitations. In Baldur's Gate 3 we could have access to all of that, or maybe there will be no swimming, we just don't know yet, but most certainly you'll be wild shaping into all of those ground-based animals. There are beasts with lower challenge ratings than a quarter, and these are typically beasts that are used for non-combat types of situations. It would be cool to change into a spider to sneak into a room and eavesdrop, or maybe become a raven to access an area that is too high to jump to. So wild shape can be used in many ways in combat and outside of combat. This is one of the features that really makes the druid extremely adaptable. Choose an animal that's good at tanking, or one that's good at dealing damage, or maybe even one that's good at detecting the presence of hidden enemies, or maybe even one for spying purposes. We might see beasts such as snakes, panthers, velociraptors, wolves, bears, eagles, apes, crocodiles, tigers, and a ton more. It's up to Larian Studios to surprise us. Playing as a druid makes exploration a ton of fun as well, for you'll be looking hard to try and find cool beasts so you can assume their form. I want to keep talking about wild shape, but we got to get into the subclasses, and as you already know, one of the subclass choices will heavily involve wild shape. So a druid subclass choice is when you choose a druid circle. There will be at least 2 choices in Baldur's Gate 3, possibly more, but these are the 2 confirmed ones: Circle of the Land and Circle of the Moon. The Circle of the Land druids are mystics and sages. Their magic is influenced by the land where they were initiated into their circle's rites. This is the type of druid that focuses on spellcasting. Now you still can and you will wild shape, but it's not the primary focus of this subclass, for it's much less powerful than the Circle of the Moon, especially at those earlier levels. If you choose the Circle of the Land, you'll gain an additional cantrip spell, and you'll also gain a feature called Natural Recovery, which will let you meditate during a short rest and actually regain some spell slots. Usually you can only get spell slots back by doing a long rest, which is going to camp in Baldur's Gate 3, but for this subclass choice you can actually gain some back in between combat encounters, which is considered as a short rest. The amount of spell slots you can recover is equal to or less than half of your druid's level, rounded up. Choosing this subclass will also grant you access to more spells. These will be the spells that are prepared at all times, just like the paladin subclass spells. But the catch is that you'll choose a type of land that you want to associate your druid with, which will determine these specific spells. There's a lot of choices, so I'm not sure if all of them will be in Baldur's Gate 3. Larian has a ton of work to do for this game, it's actually crazy, but the potential choices are Arctic, Coast, Desert, Forest, Grassland, Mountain, Swamp, and Underdark. If you notice here, each of these comes with their own spells that have that land's theme, I guess you could say, and you will gain these spells at levels 3, 5, 7, and 9. Once again, pause the screen if you would like to see the actual spells. At class level 6 as a Circle of the Land druid, you'll gain a feature called Land Stride, which will basically help you move in difficult terrain, as well as some other benefits. And at max level 10, you'll gain Nature's Ward, which will make it so you can't be frightened or charmed by elementals or fae, and you also become immune to poisons and disease. So the Circle of the Land druid is all about using spells, and you can gain some of these spell slots back faster than many other classes. It's a really cool subclass, but I think most of you are here for the Circle of the Moon. The Circle of the Moon subclass focuses on that wild shape ability, accelerating and improving its effects. At level 2 upon choosing this subclass, you'll be able to use wild shape as a bonus action. So you can cast a spell using an action and then change into a beast as well using your bonus action if you so choose. This feature also lets you use a bonus action to expend 1 spell slot to regain 1d8 HP per level of the spell slot expended. This can be really good as a tank, for you can use that defensive spell and then wild shape into a bear, and then also have this heal available at the expense of 1 spell slot. Also at level 2, you'll gain Circle Forms, which will allow you to use your wild shape to transform into a beast with a challenge rating as high as 1, and at druid level 6 and beyond, you can transform into a beast with a challenge rating as high as your druid's level divided by 3 and rounded down. So if you're a level 9 druid, you can transform into a beast with a challenge rating of 3. This subclass feature really makes your wild shape much more powerful at lower levels, for you have a much higher variety of choices for your beasts with higher challenge ratings. So the Circle of the Moon is for those of you who want to dominate in that animal form. You'll still cast spells and stuff, but really your focus is wild shape. At level 6, you'll also gain Primal Strike, which will make your attacks in beast form count as magical for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage. And finally, at level 10, you'll gain Elemental Wild Shape, making you even cooler than you already were, and allowing you to wild shape into a challenge rating 5 air, earth, fire, or water elementals by using up 2 uses of wild shape. So if you use Elemental Wild Shape in a combat situation, you cannot wild shape again in that specific combat encounter. These are really useful and powerful forms of wild shape. So those are the 2 confirmed subclasses, but if we were to get more, it would likely be the Circle of Dreams, which is more healing focused, and or the Circle of the Shepherd, which is focused more so on conjuring. That's basically it for a max level 10 Druid, but don't forget that you get the ability score improvements at class levels 4 and 8. There's so much stuff to talk about. These class videos take a lot longer than I expected, but I am enjoying doing them, and hopefully you guys are learning some new things. I know I certainly am as I create them. Let me know below if you're thinking of playing as a Druid, and if so, what subclass are you leaning towards? I'm thinking I might have to play the Circle of the Moon Druid as my main character, but I'm not 100% sure right now. The Druid is going to be one of the most interesting classes for sure in Baldur's Gate 3. I'll get right to work on another class guide, so be on the lookout, and to make sure you don't miss a video release, look for my social media links in the video's description. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It's a huge help to my videos. I do all sorts of content on this channel, ranging from comedy videos to live streams to game tutorials to game reviews to product reviews, etc. I would love to see some of you guys on a future video. Much more Baldur's Gate 3 content on the way. Until next time.